This is the Meat and Potatoes Sports Show. So thanks for listening. This is the second episode of the show. As you may know by now, essentially the format of the show is a weekly format where we will recap the best sports stories of the week and keep you up to date on the sports world. So for example, today's show we're going to cover topics that occurred the week of February 19th, 2018. Alright, so let's jump right into it. So, as you may or may not know, Kirk Cousins is a free agent in the free agent market of the NFL. And he is a very sought-after asset as of right now. As you know, the quarterback is, as of now in today's league, the most important position, undoubtedly, in the NFL. And so he's got quite a few potential suitors. Any team that doesn't have a quarterback could use him is basically what it comes down to. So just to kind of narrow it down into the, let's say, top 5 that need him or could use him the most from what I've seen, or showing the most interest rather, and are real contenders to signing him, are in this order. First being the most sought after or likely, it's the Jets, the Broncos at 2, the Vikings at 3, the Browns at 4, and the Cardinals at 5 is the list that I've seen as being the most likely to occur in terms of who's going to sign him or go with him and what have you. So the New York Jets have come on record saying they're willing to pay this guy, quote, whatever it takes to get him on their team. And, he could very, very likely come out of this as the highest paid player in the NFL. It's simple market economics, supply and demand. People need him. And in addition to that, people are willing to pay whatever it would take to sign this guy. Now, there's many differing opinions on Kirk Cousins in terms of his skill, output, what he could contribute to a team. The biggest knock against him is, I would say, does he come up big in the big games? He puts up good numbers in the regular season. It's just in terms of his resume in the postseason and in games that matters, he needs to update that portion of his resume. I think most people would agree on that, if not everybody. So that's really all there is to say about that. Well, we'll have to see what happens and how that unfolds. It's anybody's guess, really, as of now, where he'll end up going. Moving on to the next topic. Let's talk about important games in the NBA that occurred this week. So we have the Cavs losing to the Wizards 110-103, and a big reason that the Cavs did lose was their three-point percentage was under 20% at 16%. In today's NBA, it's near impossible to be a contender without a solid three-point game, as all of you know, I'm sure. And, the Cavs, even though they have arguably the best player in the league right now, I'm not even going to get into that debate in today's show. That's a whole other topic of who the best player is. Some say KD, some say that's Kevin Durant, some say LeBron James. That's a whole other issue. But the point is, even with him on your team, you need to have solid three-point shooting and solid percentages, and they didn't. They fell short of that expectation in that game, and it's kind of what you expect when you're shooting 16% from the three-point line in today's NBA. That's just the way it is. There's really no way around it. Thanks to Golden State and the precedent they've set in terms of the three-point game and what it means. It's a completely different league than it was 10 to 20 years ago. And there's just no way around that. There isn't. Next game of notable mention, I would say, was OKC beating the Kings. And yeah, the Kings, they're no great team, but the reason I bring it up is it was a cool ending. You got Russell Westbrook shooting the game-winning three-pointer as a buzzer beater. So it was pretty spectacular to see Westbrook do that on top of the triple-double he earned in that game. And, we've seen Russ do this time and time again. He comes up big in fourth quarters and the end of games. I know he catches some flack for his style of play. I personally think he is one of the most, if not the most, fun player to watch currently in the league. His handle, the way he drives to the lane, just relentlessly, his ability to shoot the three ball. And, he's not the best, nowhere near the best three-point shooter, but it's enough. He has enough of a three ball to where when you're guarding him, it's a threat. And you can't just back off and assume he's going to drive to the rim, because he's not always going to, because he has that three ball that's good enough to zing you when he needs to and keep you guessing and keep you on your toes. And that's huge, for anyone who plays basketball and is a fan of the game, and you know how huge that is. Keeping your opponent guessing when he's on D is one of the most important assets you can have on offense as a player. And moving on to our next topic. So we got Lamar Jackson. There's a quarterback controversy regarding Lamar Jackson. Well, I guess depending on how you slice it, because you kind of have to be accepted as a quarterback for there to be a quarterback controversy, right? And he's not. The league is, and there have been scouts saying that they don't think he can cut it as a quarterback. They'd like to see him. They prefer to see him at the wide receiver position specifically, or maybe other positions, but from what I've seen, they really would like to see him playing in the receiver position. And, to his credit, you got to respect it. He's not having it. He wants to play quarterback. He's, with the combine coming up, he's going to try to show us why he should be a quarterback, I would guess. And it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. There's been talk of is it racism and what have you and all that. And to that, I would respond, no, it really isn't, because the same thing happened with Tebow, and they didn't like how much he ran, and they wanted him to be open to playing other positions. And same kind of deal with him. He wanted to play quarterback. That's what he wanted to do. He didn't end up being able to cut it as quarterback, and as we see now, he's trying to make it in the MLB, playing Major League Baseball. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this kid. We obviously wish the best for him and hope he can make his dreams come true, but at the end of the day, it's team's objective is to win, and if teams think he can accomplish that and he has the skills to back it up, as he seems to think so, then I have no doubt in my mind he will find a team, and a team will happily take him and have them play as their quarterback. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Like I said, the combine's coming up, so I think that'll shed maybe some more light on, for some people, if he can cut it as a quarterback in the league or not. Some people take the combine more seriously than others. And it goes from a wide range. There are some who say that it should be completely disregarded and really means nothing at the end of the day, which I don't agree with. I tend to fall more in the middle, where, it should hold some weight, because you are showcasing your athleticism and other skills that apply to the game. But, at the same time, it's not in a game in high-pressured situations with all the expectations. Well, there are the expectations, so that is why people argue it is worthwhile. But it's not a game where you're having to play with teammates and mesh well with them, and most importantly, live up to their expectations as well. So we'll see what happens with that after the combine. Next topic, and this one is a hot button issue. So we got Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, who was on record on a radio show essentially admitting to tanking. And so for those who do, back it up. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure everyone does, but just to be clear, tanking is when a team intentionally loses games so that they can find themselves in a more favorable position in the draft. So the teams who have the worst records get their picks in the draft earlier. And so it's a strategy known as tanking, where you'll lose games to damage your record so that you'll find yourself further up in the draft. and able to draft better players. So Mark Cuban admitted to that, which is pretty unheard of. I mean, really the only people I know of that have done this is, you have the 76ers with the process or whatever they call it in this strategy they had. But the point is, Mark Cuban openly is admitting to tanking and just blatantly wide out in the open. So the NBA caught wind of that, obviously, because it spread like that news that he said that spread like wildfire, and the league caught up with him and they fined him $600,000 for that. I don't know if it's so much for being an idiot and saying it or the actual tanking itself. We'll let you decide. But and then on top of that, he found himself amidst a very, very steamy scandal with people on his staff and allegations of sexual misconduct. And let's leave it at that. You can look into it more for yourself. But essentially, it's sexual misconduct allegations, not to Mark Cuban himself, but to employees of his. And, people are out there arguing, how could you not have known about this or how bad it was? Because at some point, he signed some kind of contract with this perpetrator or this person being alleged to have done this. And it was essentially boiled down to he won't have interaction with certain people or certain women in the office or what have you. And so people basically are really giving Cuban the business about this, as well as they should, because you can't be a guy as smart as Cuban and just plead ignorance to something that egregious. You can't have it both ways. You can't be Mark Cuban, the Shark Tank whiz, and the guy who is smarter than everyone in the world, the best owner in the league. I'm sure if you were to ask him. So, like I said, you can't have it both ways, and we'll see over time how the story unfolds and what the true fallout of it is. And, obviously it's being compounded. The effects of the story are being compounded, and it's exploding even more because of the whole hashtag #MeToo movement. And it's time, hashtag is time, and all those hashtags, and this groundswell we see in our world of men being held accountable for their sexual misconduct in the workplace and otherwise. So, like I said, time will tell. And finally, the last story of this show is another scandal, which we'll just kind of gloss over. It's in the NCAA portion of the sports world, specifically basketball, college basketball. So Louisville's 2013 championship title has been vacated. That is, Coach Rick Pitino is their coach. And it's pretty crazy how this story unfolded. I mean, not to mention how the story itself is even crazier. But the story essentially exploded into our news cycle when an escort named Katina Powell wrote a book in 2015. And in this book, there were allegations that a former staffer of the team, Louisville's team, named Andre McGee, hired herself and a multitude of other escorts, strippers, dancers, what have you, to strip and even have sex in some cases with potential recruits for the university. So that's how that's why their title's being vacated, and their banners are having to be stripped from the stadiums and the court itself. And Rick Pitino essentially pled the fifth and is saying, "Hey man, I had no idea any of this was going on." And clearly the majority of people are like, "Come on, that's a little bit ridiculous. You're the coach of a college team. Those guys at that level of college ball, those guys know everything that's going on with their players and what's going on in their lives and what have you." So once again, you can't have it both ways. You can't plead ignorance in a situation like that when you're so involved in these young men's lives. And that's basically what he tried doing, and they filed for appeal, and the NCAA wasn't buying Rick Pitino's version of that story. So the title vacation is official and it sticks. So, kind of sad that all those young men's hard work and achievement has to be removed from the official record. I mean, in their heart, they still know they won it. But, at the same time, it's sad that it has to be removed from the official record and has to sting to an extent, even though like I said, they know in their hearts they won it. Because then it digs into the deeper issue of, did some players essentially end up signing with the school as a result of these fringe benefits and the enticing nature of an escort or stripper to a young man at that age. So it is what it is at this point. There's nothing they can do now. He's still denying it to this day, but it's a blemish that's on the program now, and there's no way around it. Nothing they can do about it. So thanks for listening, guys. We got another great show for you next week. So please stay tuned and keep an eye out for it. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Give the video a like, a thumbs up, and please spread it and share it among your friends. Your support truly means the world to us. I am your host, EB, signing off.